Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Divorce Happens, the podcast where we support you before, during, and after divorce with education, inspiration, a little bit of laughter, and everything you need because, as you know, divorce happens and then you start fresh. And we're here with one of our wonderful Fresh Starts experts, Jolie Steele. Jolie, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I am an empowerment coach for women. So I work with women one-on-one inside of 3 to 6 month containers and help them recover a connection to their own sense of intuition and also engage their fear in a different way that helps them embody the courage it is that they want to have to live a more authentic life to who they are.
I love that. And there truly couldn't be a more important coach, I'm going to say, for during this time, because as we both know, we both have been through divorce. It really robs you, right, of your intuition and everything that you have ever thought about yourself or felt about yourself. So why do we need to, I guess my question, let me say how it is there's so many things that are happening during a divorce process, right? We're dealing with lawyers and custody and this and that, and we lose so much of ourselves. Why should we pivot that a little bit and focus on the empowerment aspect while we're also going through this divorce process?
Well, I can speak definitely to my own experience, which I do think is connected to the collective experience of women. I think that a lot of the women that are in my audience base that I connect with as clients are women that have some degree of past history with religion. And outside of religion, even just the larger social cultural narrative for women often is to kind of waylay their own needs and their own insights in order to keep peace.
Mm,
And I think that it's important in multiple ways in the process of divorce. In my own experience, I did some poor negotiating while I was trying to keep peace because I was learning, or because I learned that remaining disconnected from myself was the way to keep conflict as low as possible. And it can start to be very confusing, I think, also if you have kids, because you
mm,
want to maintain peace for kids. But
yeah.
for me, what I realized in the long run was that if I was taking more of a panoramic view of what I wanted, not just out of my life, but even for my ex husband, and more especially for my kids, it was that I wanted them to see an example of people consciously and compassionately being connected to who they are as a person and having the self respect to live that out.
I love that. And one of my biggest issues when I was going through my divorce and all of this kind of building back the empowerment was I didn't even know where to begin, right? So what would you say, if you're working with a woman and she comes to you and she's like, "I have no idea who I am, what I enjoy, what I like to eat, what music makes me happy." Where do you even begin with that, Dolly?
Yeah, I think there's two things that come to mind for me immediately. I think the first thing is to notice your own reaction to that state, right? When you realize, oh my gosh, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I'm such a mess. I'm so
Yeah.
anxious, blah, blah, blah. The first place is to notice how you orient to that. Are you very ashamed? Are you extremely critical? Are you avoidant? Do you numb out? Are you frozen? And to get immediately into a position of orienting from compassion toward yourself. I think so many people want to see change in their life and they want to feel differently, and they jump right to the to do list. They jump right to, okay, I just have to really dig my heels into discipline and do the thing and do it again. And it doesn't matter how I feel. And they miss what feels to me like the most crux piece, which is if you can't be soft to yourself, if you can't
Mm.
love yourself where you are right now, then you're not going to love yourself even if you check the to do list off. And that feels like the first most important part to me. Um,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go, go. Yeah, I was gonna say that piece is so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what I was going to say as the second part is in the midst of trying to establish that compassion, for many of my clients, it's about kind of unraveling, slowing down and unraveling what are the narratives that I've internalized, not just about myself, but about what it means for me to be a good person,
Yeah.
what it means for me to be a good wife or mother or a good woman in society. Where did those stories come from? And am I okay maintaining and perpetuating those stories? Can I find some compassion for someone who mistakenly internalized all of that without really editing or consenting to the internalizing them in the first place?
Yeah. You know what's so interesting is that we probably work with a lot of women in the same situation at Fresh Starts, obviously that you do because they're coming to Fresh Starts for the fresh start and then you work with them. And so one of the things that we've always said about the beauty of the registry, which you also had a divorce registry, is that it's not about the items, right? It's about the empowerment of picking out those items for the first time. And that goes exactly into what we're talking about. I remember going through my divorce process and watercoloring again for the first time. And
Hmm.
literally was like, color exists in the world. Like I forgot, like the color existed, right? So it must be so thrilling for you as a coach to like walk down this journey with these women.
Yeah. And I think so many women, as you were saying, just the simple act of deciding something that you want, right? Asking somebody where to start with it can be as simple as, what do you want to do with the next hour of your life? Right?
Mm,
Like, yes, you have things you're instinctively going to turn to because you feel some sense of responsibility to them. But even in the midst of the responsibility, give yourself choices between A and B and see if you
yeah.
can really actually settle into your body of, yeah, I actually want to do A first and then B second, right?
Mm.
Sometimes we make it more complicated than it needs to be. And it's really just about, what do I want right now? If I were to erase every voice and every influence that's been put upon me, what do I want to do in the next 30 minutes?
Which is a really hard question. And brings me to my next question for you is how do you work with people if they're listening to this and women especially are like, I need this and I don't even know what questions to ask. So as a empowerment coach, how do you work with people?
There's a couple of different ways. I just released a workbook that's called Better Stories that helps people walk through. Of course, everybody knows when they want change. Everybody knows when they don't feel good. And the problem from there is figuring out, what am I tangibly doing? I don't know what to do next. And so a great place for people to start, which is one of the activities in the workbook I provide, is that most of us are actually really great at being critical and ashamed. Most of us
Mhm.
are very aware of what we consider our weaknesses,
Yeah.
right? And if we can take a moment to think about the things that we consider our personal weaknesses, then we can think about, what story has been the fuel to this perception of myself. One example I always give to my clients, if this is hard to metabolize, is, one of my former biggest weaknesses was procrastination. And when
Mm,
I ask people, what is the root story, the root belief underneath avoiding your work, a lot of people get stuck and say things like, well, I just don't want to do my work, or I'm
right.
overwhelmed and so I avoid it. And I encourage people to go deeper than that, to the sense of, for me, for example, the root belief of what was so easy to come up with as a weakness was that I was actually very unsure that I was even competent or deserving of the work that I was avoiding. I was afraid
Mm,
that, what if I do it and I fail and I'm not capable? And that story is affirmed for me.
right.
So, a great place to start is to just think about, what do you see as your weaknesses, and what is the deep rooted story underneath that weakness that you may not even realize that you're
Mm,
telling yourself? And then you shift that story. You kind of create just a 180, whatever statement that is. You create a 180 and say, I am capable. I am
yeah.
worthy of the success that I'm pursuing.
I love that, and that can all be done with the help of your workbook.
Yes, correct. As
Yes.
well as the work that I do with my clients one on one. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you can find Jolie and all of her wonderful information, obviously, in the show notes for this show and also at Fresh Starts Registry in the expert guide. Jolie, before we let you go, if somebody's listening to this and they are going through a divorce or they're considering a divorce, what would be some wise words you could leave them with?
I think that starting to go through the process, or being in the midst of the process, really feels like such a destructive force in your life. It can feel like everything has fallen apart, everything is in flames, and it can be so easy to um, just rely on that storyline of the present moment. And I think I would tell you that that is the most instrumental part of the process, that you have to destruct in order to make room for what's coming next, and that you don't need to be afraid of the
Yeah.
parts where you feel completely fallen apart, completely broken, completely directionless. That is the moment where you now get the gift of choosing the direction, of choosing what you're going to now fill your life with. And it doesn't feel empowering in the moment, but as
Yeah.
someone who's been through it, it really is such an empowering point of your life.
I love that. That is beautiful. Well, thank you for all of these empowering words. And we're so happy you're part of Fresh Starts. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Jolie, just check out the show notes. Thanks, Jolie.
Thank you.